The eviction notice fluttered in the wind like a flag of defeat. Claire stood in the doorway of her small apartment above the cafe, holding the paper with trembling hands. Outside, the realtor leaned against his luxury car, sunglasses reflecting the morning sun. He smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't meant to comfort but to conquer. "Nothing personal," he said, adjusting his cufflinks. "Just business." Behind that cold charm, his voice carried arrogance and indifference. Claire's eyes glistened, but her tone stayed steady. "You've taken everything. Is that enough?" Ethan Ward, top realtor in the city, known for closing deals with ruthless precision, didn't flinch. He had evicted dozens before, and this was just another signature. The old building had been on the market for months, and Claire was its last holdout. Her little cafe downstairs had been her mother's dream, a dream now dying under his smile. As she gathered her things, Ethan watched without emotion, already texting his assistant about the sale. To him, it was victory, clean, simple, final, until he noticed something glinting against her collarbone. The sunlight caught a small silver pendant as Claire bent to pick up a box. Ethan froze, his phone halfway to his ear. The shape, the engraving, it was unmistakable. A crest, two lions guarding a shield, intertwined with ivy. He had seen that emblem his whole life. On his family's heirlooms, his father's ring, the mansion gates. For a second, the world tilted. His confident smirk faltered. His throat tightened as an impossible question surfaced. "Why is she wearing my family's crest?" Claire looked up, noticing his sudden stillness. "What's wrong?" she asked, confused by a sudden change of expression. He took a step closer, his eyes fixed on the pendant. "Where did you get that necklace?" he asked, his voice softer, uncertain. She frowned, instinctively clutching it. "It was my mother's." "Why?" Ethan's pulse quickened. 100 possibilities flashed through his mind, but none made sense. The crest was unique, belonging only to one bloodline, his. The sound of the cafe's doorbell interrupted the tension, but neither moved. Claire's hand trembled as she tucked the pendant beneath her blouse. Ethan forced a laugh, trying to bury his unease. "Forget it," he muttered. But inside, something had cracked, a certainty he'd never questioned. As he walked away, his smile was gone, replaced by a chill he couldn't shake. Claire watched him leave, unaware she had just awakened a buried secret. And for the first time, Ethan didn't feel like the man in control. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The image of the pendant burned in his mind, like a ghost refusing to leave. He poured himself a glass of whiskey and sat in his study, the walls lined with awards and property deeds. Everything he had built, every triumph, suddenly felt paper thin. He reached for the family album his late father had left locked in a drawer. Dust floated in the air as he turned the pages. Generations of Ward men, proud and untouchable. And there, on one yellowed photograph, the same crest appeared. His father wore it on a chain, standing beside a woman Ethan didn't recognize. He leaned closer, his heart pounding. The woman had gentle eyes and dark hair, just like Claire. A handwritten note beneath the photo read, "Summer, 1987, Willowbrook." He flipped the page, but the next photo had been torn out, edges jagged, as if ripped in anger. A faint indentation remained where writing had once been. Ethan rubbed a pencil lightly over it, revealing faint words. "She never knew." His pulse quickened. The words felt like an accusation from a grave. He sat back, whispering to the empty room, "Who are you, Claire?" The next morning, he drove to Willowbrook, a small town an hour away, where the photo had been taken. It was quiet, untouched by the city's rush, the kind of place that held its secrets close. He stopped at the old records office, flashing his business smile to the clerk. "I'm looking for property records," he said. "Ward family estates, around 1980 to 1990. The clerk nodded and returned with a stack of worn binders. Ethan sifted through them, page by page, until one entry froze his hand. Property transfer, Margaret Ward to Anna Collins. He whispered the name aloud. Anna Collins. Claire's last name was Collins. His gut clenched. Flipping through more pages, he found another note. Transfer, partial ownership, personal arrangement. The clerk looked over his shoulder. That estate was never sold through a bank, she said softly. Ethan swallowed hard. Do you know what kind of arrangement? She shrugged, curious. No, but the Wards were known for complicated family matters. Ethan closed the binder, his reflection pale in the glass cabinet. Complicated. That was one word for it. As he left the building, the sky began to darken, rain threatening on the horizon. Each drop that fell felt heavier than the last, echoing his growing dread. He pulled over near an old church, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. There, in the distance, he saw the cemetery gate creak open. Something drew him inside. Maybe instinct, maybe guilt. Rows of worn stones stretched before him, and at the very back, one caught his eye. The inscription read, Anna Collins Ward. Rain began to fall softly over the cemetery, soaking Ethan's hair and clothes, but he didn't move. He stood frozen before the grave, tracing the engraved letters with trembling fingers. Anna Collins Ward. The hyphen tore through him like lightning. It wasn't just a coincidence. His father had never spoken of another woman, another family, another life. A single rose, long wilted, lay at the base of the stone, wrapped in faded ribbon. He crouched, brushing mud away from the inscription beneath the name. It read, Beloved mother and dreamer, the truth will always bloom. The words haunted him as he drove back to the city, rain streaking across his windshield. He replayed every memory of his father. The lectures on success, the cold stares, the rigid control. There had always been a shadow behind his father's perfection, something unsaid. Now, Ethan could feel that shadow watching him, whispering through the storm. He slammed the steering wheel, fury and confusion twisting inside him. If his father had betrayed someone, if he had left a family behind, then Claire wasn't just another tenant. She was part of that secret. The next day, he arrived at the cafe early, before it opened. The place looked ordinary, small tables, mismatched chairs, the smell of baked bread. But now it felt different, as if every corner had a memory he didn't belong to. Through the window, he saw Claire wiping down a counter, humming softly. For a moment, she looked almost like that woman in the photograph. He hesitated before knocking, his heart pounding. She looked up, surprised but calm. You again? I need to talk, he said, stepping inside. The air between them was thick, with something unspoken. I found your mother's name, he blurted, unable to hold it in. Claire froze, her cloth slipping from her hand. What did you just say? Anna Collins, he said, voice trembling. I saw her grave. She had my family's name too. Her eyes widened, and for a second, all color drained from her face. She whispered, almost to herself, You shouldn't have gone there. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan searched her face for answers, for truth, for anything. What was she to my father? He asked, his voice breaking slightly. Claire looked away, tears gathering but refusing to fall. You don't want to know. I have to, he insisted, stepping closer. This isn't just about the past anymore. She met his gaze, steady but pained. If you open that door, you can't close it again. Ethan swallowed hard. Then I'll live with what's behind it. Claire took a deep breath and locked the cafe door, as if sealing the world outside. Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. My mother never spoke of your father by name. She walked to a cabinet, pulling out an old tin box filled with yellowed letters and photographs. After she died, I found these, she said, laying them on the counter. I shouldn't even have them. Ethan's eyes widened as he saw his father's handwriting on several envelopes. Every letter began the same way. My dearest Anna. His throat tightened as he picked one up, the ink smudged by old tears. My mother loved a man who promised her forever, Claire said softly. He told her he'd leave everything behind, the company, the money, the family name. Ethan felt a cold sweat run down his neck. His father had always preached loyalty, discipline, perfection. But these words told another story of passion, betrayal, and lies. Claire pointed to a photograph tucked between the letters. In it, a young Anna smiled beside a man whose face had been torn out. The picture my mother could never throw away, she whispered. Ethan turned the photo over, and saw something written on the back. For our daughter, someday. The handwriting was his father's. There was no doubt. The words hit him like a blade. He looked up at Claire, his lips parting but no sound coming out. "You mean," he began, unable to finish. Claire nodded slowly, tears shimmering in her eyes. "Yes, Ethan, we share the same blood." The air between them shattered like glass. Neither spoke for several seconds. The truth was too heavy for sound. He staggered back, gripping the counter to steady himself. Everything, every eviction, every cruel word, twisted into guilt. He had destroyed the only connection he didn't know he had left. Claire wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "I didn't want you to find out this way." Ethan's mind spun. The deal, the eviction, his father's grave silence through the years. "How long have you known?" he asked weakly. "Since the day I saw your name on the papers," she said. "I recognized it immediately." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, pacing the small cafe like a trapped animal. "You could have told me," he said, his voice cracking. Claire's expression softened, but her words cut deep. "And what would you have done? Pity me?" He opened his mouth to answer, but nothing came. She was right. The man he had been, the one who smiled while evicting people, wouldn't have cared. He stared at the pendant resting against her chest again. The same crest he had worn as a child, now burning like a curse between them. Ethan sat in silence. The letter spread before him like a crime scene of ink and truth. His father, the man he had idolized, had lived a double life. The family crest, once a symbol of pride, now felt poisoned. He looked up at Claire, his voice low and broken. "So, I evicted my own sister." Claire's eyes shimmered with restrained pain. "Not just that, you humiliated her." Her words sliced through him like glass. He couldn't meet her gaze. Every deal he had ever closed now felt like a confession he hadn't written yet. "My mother told me something before she died," Claire said softly. She said the truth would find its way home, through guilt, if not through love. Her voice cracked, and Ethan could feel her trembling as she spoke. She never stopped believing someone from your family would come back. He looked at her sharply. "Come back? For what?" Claire's lips quivered, her next words barely a whisper. "To make things right." The air between them turned heavy again. Grief and destiny tangled like chains. Ethan leaned forward, burying his face in his hands. "How could he do this?" he muttered. "How could he abandon you?" Claire stared at the pendant. The only thing her mother left her. "He didn't just abandon us," she said coldly. "He erased us." Ethan looked up, startled by the fire in her tone. "My mother sent letters to your family for years," she continued. "They came back unopened." The shame that crossed Ethan's face was raw, unguarded. It was his father's and reborn in him. "I thought the wards were untouchable," Claire said bitterly. "All those articles, those charity galas, those smiling photos, I used to watch them on TV." She laughed. "But it wasn't joy. It was pain dressed as irony. My mother used to tell me not to hate them," she said. "She said hate turns you into what hurt you." Ethan's eyes glistened as guilt flooded his chest. "And yet here I am, proving her wrong." Claire's hand shook slightly as she poured him coffee, the silence deafening. Neither knew if it was a peace offering or a farewell. Ethan stared at the dark liquid, seeing his reflection ripple in it. He whispered, "Maybe I deserve to lose everything." Claire crossed her arms, her tone steady but sharp. "You don't get to decide that alone." He looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" She walked toward the window, her back to him. "Redemption isn't about guilt. It's about what you do next." Her words lingered in the air like the smell of rain after thunder. For the first time, Ethan realized this was no longer about his father. It was about him. Ethan drove straight to his mother's mansion that night, rain slicing through the windshield. The Ward estate loomed like a fortress, beautiful, powerful, and hollow. He stormed into the marble foyer, his shoes leaving muddy prints on the perfect floor. His mother, elegant as always, looked up from her glass of wine. "Ethan," he slammed a folder onto the table. The letters, the photos, the proof. Her calm expression faltered for the first time in years. "Tell me everything," he said, his voice trembling with rage. She didn't move, didn't blink. The silence stretched between them like a blade. Then, softly, she said, "You found her." The admission cut through him like thunder. "So it's true," he hissed. "You knew." She set her glass down slowly, as if handling something fragile. "I knew of her," she replied. "I didn't know she survived." Ethan stepped closer, eyes blazing. "You let us live in wealth built on her pain." His mother's eyes filled with tears she didn't want to shed. "Your father made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Ethan spat. He had a whole other family. Her voice rose, sharp as glass. "And what would you have had him do, Ethan? Throw everything away?" He froze. That tone, cold, practical, merciless, was a Ward legacy. "He loved her," he said quietly. "He chose her once." His mother turned away, staring at the fire. He was weak. "I fixed that." Ethan felt his chest tighten, his hands trembling. "You fixed it by erasing them." Her silence confirmed what she could never say aloud. Ethan stared at the flames, feeling the truth consume him. Everything his family had built, the houses, the awards, the prestige, was soaked in deceit. He whispered, almost to himself, "We're not noble, we're thieves of love." His mother turned, her voice softer now. "It wasn't supposed to end like this." He laughed bitterly. "It never does." She looked down, gripping her locket. The same crest, the same curse. For the first time, Ethan pitied her, a woman trapped in gold and ghosts. He gathered the letters and photos, his decision burning inside him. "I'm going to fix what he broke," he said, standing tall. His mother's voice shook. "Ethan, you'll destroy the family name." He met her gaze, his tone cold and clear. "Then maybe it deserves to die." She reached out as if to stop him, but he was already walking away. Outside, lightning flashed across the mansion's stained glass windows. The rain fell harder now, washing the dirt from his shoes, but not from his soul. The rain hadn't stopped when Ethan pulled up to the cafe. Water streamed down the windows, blurring the warm light inside. He hesitated before entering, drenched and trembling, not from the cold, but from conviction. Claire looked up as the doorbell chimed, surprise flashing across her face. He didn't speak at first, only set a soaked folder on the counter between them. "What's this?" she asked cautiously, glancing at the familiar handwriting inside. Ethan's voice cracked. "Everything that was stolen from you." She frowned, confusion and disbelief warring in her eyes. "These are property deeds," she said slowly, flipping through the papers. "Bank records, transfers." He nodded, his jaw tight. "All from the state your mother was forced out of." Her hands trembled. "You found them?" Ethan took a deep breath, rain dripping from his hair. "No, I uncovered them. My family hid them." For a moment, the cafe was silent except for the storm outside. Claire's eyes softened, not with forgiveness, but with shock. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. Ethan met her gaze, his own filled with shame. "Because it's yours, not ours." She shook her head, stepping back. "You think giving me papers will erase what you did?" He flinched, the truth stinging like salt. "No, but it's a start." Claire crossed her arms, her voice steady but trembling. "And what about you?" "I'll walk away," he said simply. "From the company, the name, everything." Her breath caught. "You'd lose everything your father built." Ethan's expression darkened, the rain light flickering across his face. "He built it on lies," he said. "It's not mine to keep." She looked at him for a long moment, tried to read the man behind the apology. There was no arrogance left, no polished smile, only guilt, raw and human. "You can't buy forgiveness," she said softly. He nodded, tears mixing with the rain on his face. "I'm not trying to. I'm just giving back what never belonged to me." For the first time, she didn't see a realtor. She saw a man stripped of everything but truth. Claire turned away, staring at the pendant that had started it all. It gleamed faintly under the cafe lights, catching the rhythm of her heartbeat. "My mother used to say," she murmured, "justice is a revenge, it's memory." Ethan listened silently, his chest rising and falling with regret. "She wanted me to forgive," Claire continued, But I don't know if I can. He closed his eyes, nodding. Then I'll wait, as long as it takes. The clock ticked in the background, marking the beginning of something neither could name. By morning, the news had spread like wildfire. Real estate mogul exposes family's secret corruption. The headline glared from every screen, every paper, every whispered conversation downtown. Ethan's confession, along with the evidence he gave Claire, had gone public overnight. His company's board was in chaos, investors fleeing, reporters swarming his mansion. His phone buzzed endlessly, but he didn't answer once. He sat in silence, watching the empire collapse, knowing he had struck the match himself. His mother's voice echoed from the hallway, sharp and trembling. "What have you done?" she demanded, holding the morning paper in her manicured hands. "You've destroyed everything your father worked for." Ethan looked up slowly, his expression calm but tired. "No," he said. "I set it free." She stared at him as if seeing a stranger. "You're no ward anymore." He gave a faint, bitter smile. "That's the first honest thing you've said in years." She turned away, trembling, unable to watch her dynasty crumble. Outside, journalists gathered by the gates, shouting his name. "Mr. Ward, did you really transfer all family assets to the Collins estate? Was your father guilty of fraud? Are you and Claire Collins related?" Ethan ignored them all, slipping past with nothing but a duffel bag and his keys. He didn't care about the questions. The truth was already free. He drove to the cafe, the only place left untouched by greed. But even there, the whispers had arrived before him. Claire was serving customers when she saw him through the glass door. Her stomach twisted. She had seen the headlines too. He looked exhausted, pale, but there was something peaceful in his eyes. As he stepped inside, the cafe went quiet. A few people recognized him, murmuring under their breath. Claire motioned toward the back room, her tone firm but not hostile. "We talked there." He nodded, grateful for her restraint, following her like a man entering confession. Inside the small room, she crossed her arms, her jaw tight. "You really did it," she said softly. "You burned it all down." Ethan gave a faint nod. "It was already burning. I just stopped pretending it wasn't." Claire sat down slowly, shaking her head in disbelief. "You didn't have to do that." He looked at her, a small, broken smile forming. "Maybe I did. Some debts aren't paid with money." She stared at him, torn between anger and pity. "You've lost everything." Ethan met her gaze steadily. "Then maybe I can finally start living honestly." The world turned its back on Ethan Ward. His face was plastered across every headline. Fallen realtor destroys his legacy. His accounts were frozen, his mansion repossessed, and his once loyal partners vanished overnight. He watched it all from a small rented room above a laundromat. Gone were the suits, the luxury cars, the arrogance. Only the man remained. He spent nights staring at the ceiling, haunted not by what he lost, but by what he'd learned. Every lie his family told had cost someone else their peace. At the cafe, Claire read the news in silence, the cup trembling in her hand. Her employees whispered in corners, unsure how to treat the man who'd ruined and redeemed everything. Customers debated loudly at tables, some calling him a hero, others a fraud. She turned off the TV, unable to bear the noise. Her heart was conflicted. He had caused her pain, but also exposed truth. Every night she looked at her mother's pendant, wondering what forgiveness really meant. Did justice demand punishment or healing? One afternoon, the cafe bell rang, softly this time. Ethan stepped inside, his clothes plain, his eyes tired but clear. The room fell silent again. Even the espresso machine seemed to pause. He approached the counter slowly, as if walking toward a verdict. "I came to say goodbye," he murmured, sliding an envelope across the counter. Claire frowned. "What's this now?" He smiled faintly. Proof that the Collins name now owns every Ward property. Officially. Her eyes widened, stunned. "You sign it over?" He nodded. "All of it. The land, the assets, even the office tower." She shook her head in disbelief. "You can't just give it away." "I already did," he said quietly. "Consider it restitution, from one Ward to the last Collins." Her lips parted, but no words came. The gesture was too much, too final. He turned to leave, his shoulders heavy but his steps steady. The doorbell chimed again as he disappeared into the gray afternoon. That night, Claire sat alone at a table, the envelope still sealed beside her. She whispered into the quiet cafe, "You can't fix the past by destroying yourself." Outside, the rain fell again, steady, cleansing, endless. She thought of her mother, of Ethan's pain, of everything broken between them. Then she stood, grabbed her coat, and locked up the cafe. Her mind was made up. There was something she needed to do. Forgiveness wasn't given by letters. It was given face to face. The night air was cold, the streets almost empty. Claire walked quickly through puddles reflecting dim streetlights, clutching the pendant in her hand. She knew where to find him, a small riverside park where he once mentioned going think. When she arrived, Ethan was sitting on a bench facing the water, motionless. His jacket was soaked, his hair dripping, but he didn't seem to care. He didn't look up when she approached, just whispered, "I figured you'd come." Her voice was calm but sharp. "You're not done yet." He exhaled slowly, fog curling in the air. "I've done everything I could." She stood in front of him, rain matting her hair. "No, you ran again." Just like him. The accusation stung more than he expected. "I'm not my father," he muttered. "Then stop acting like him," she snapped. He hid behind power. "You're hiding behind guilt." Ethan finally looked up, eyes red but steady. "I don't deserve forgiveness, Claire." She stared back, her voice breaking. "It's not about what you deserve." A long silence hung between them, filled with rain and breath. Claire sat beside him, close enough to feel his trembling. "My mother used to come here," she said softly, "when she was scared or hurt." Ethan's gaze softened, following the ripples on the river. What did she do when she came? "She'd throw a pebble," Claire said, smiling faintly. She said it carried her pain away. Ethan picked up a small stone and rolled it in his hand. "Maybe I should throw a boulder," he said with a weak laugh. Claire chuckled through tears. "Then start with this one." He threw it, a sharp splash echoing in the dark. They both watched the ripples fade into the current, vanishing beneath the city lights. For a moment, it felt like the river carried their ghosts with it. Ethan spoke first, voice quiet but raw. "I wish I could undo what I did to you." Claire shook her head. "You can't, but you can make sure no one else ever does it again." He looked at her, understanding dawning like dawn itself. Maybe redemption wasn't something earned, it was something lived. As the rain slowed, Claire reached into her pocket and held out the pendant. "This was never a curse," she said. "It's a reminder." Ethan hesitated before taking it, his fingers brushing hers. "For what?" he asked softly. "For the truth," she said, "and for what it cost to find it." He looked at the crest, shining faintly in the streetlight, and nodded. For the first time, the symbol didn't feel heavy. It felt human. Weeks passed, and the storm of headlines finally faded into silence. Ethan's name no longer trended. The world had found a new scandal to feed on. But instead of vanishing, he started something small, something real. He rented an abandoned lot on the edge of town, once owned by his company. There, he built temporary shelters for families who'd lost their homes to eviction. No cameras, no sponsors, no statements, just hammers, nails, and sweat. Every plank he raised felt like one piece of his guilt being lifted. The people he helped didn't know who he was, and he didn't tell them. They called him the Quiet Builder, a man who worked till dark and slept on site. Sometimes, children brought him coffee from Claire's cafe. She never charged him. He'd smile faintly when he saw the paper cups with her logo. At night, he'd sit under the half-finished roofs, staring at the stars. For the first time in years, the silence didn't accuse him, it comforted him. Maybe this was what peace was supposed to feel like. One evening, Claire arrived unannounced, her car headlights cutting through the dusk. She stepped out, watching him drive nails into a frame with bare hands. He looked thinner, older, but lighter, somehow. "You really don't stop," she said, walking closer. He smiled without looking up. "If I stop, I think too much." She watched him work, her heart softening against her will. "You could have built anything," she said. "You chose this." He finally turned to her, eyes steady, rain still glistening on his skin. "I built what I broke," he said simply. "It's the only thing that makes sense." Claire glanced around. Families cooking, kids laughing, a woman hanging clothes on a line. This place wasn't charity, it was community. She felt tears rising before she could stop them. "Maybe," she said softly. "You're more like her than you think." He smiled faintly. "Your mother?" "No," she whispered. "Mine." They stood in silence, watching the sunset bleed gold over the rooftops. A faint wind brushed through, carrying the smell of earth and bread. Ethan leaned against a post, exhaustion written across his face, but his eyes shone. "I never thought I'd see something good come out of this mess," he murmured. Claire turned to him, her tone gentle now. "Maybe that's what grace looks like." He nodded slowly, the words sinking deep. For once, they didn't feel like strangers bound by tragedy. They felt like family healed by truth. The shelters were nearly finished when the first storm hit the town. Winds tore through the fragile roofs, scattering wood and tarps like paper. Families huddled inside, terrified that the little they had rebuilt would vanish again. Ethan rushed from tent to tent, shouting over the roaring rain. His shirt clung to his skin, his hands bleeding from splintered beams. But he didn't stop, not this time, not when people needed him most. He was no longer the man who watched others lose their homes. Claire arrived minutes later, soaked and shaking. She ran toward him, her coat whipping in the wind. "Ethan!" she shouted, helping him lift a broken support beam. He grinned through the chaos. "Thought you didn't like construction sites." "Shut up and hold it steady," she yelled back, her voice breaking between rain and fear. Together, they secured the last frame as lightning flashed across the sky. In that moment, they weren't two wounded souls. They were one force of survival. When the storm passed, dawn broke gently over the wreckage. Mud coated their hands, their clothes, even their faces. Children peeked from tents, clutching blankets, eyes wide but safe. Claire exhaled shakily, brushing her wet hair from her face. "We made it." Ethan nodded, exhausted, leaning against a post. "Barely." She looked around, her voice softening. "You didn't just rebuild a camp, you rebuilt people." He smiled faintly. "Maybe they rebuilt me too." Later that day, as sunlight returned, reporters showed up again. They filmed the camp, the families, and the story of the fallen mogul turned builder. One of them shoved a microphone at Ethan. "Do you regret what you did?" Ethan glanced at Claire, then at the people around him. He shook his head slowly. "No, I regret waiting so long to start doing the right thing." The clip went viral, not for scandal, but for sincerity. For the first time, the world saw redemption without a script. That evening, Claire found him sitting by the river again. He was quiet, watching the reflection of the half-built home shimmer on the water. "People are calling you a hero," she said softly. He chuckled under his breath. "Funny, I used to think that title came with a penthouse." She smiled faintly, sitting beside him. "You're still paying for your past, you know." He nodded. "And maybe I always will." She turned to him and whispered, "Then I'll help you carry what's left." Months later, the settlement had become something more than a camp. It was now a small village, colorful homes, gardens, and laughter everywhere. Ethan walked down the dirt path each morning, nodding to people planting flowers. He'd never imagined that from his worst mistake, something so beautiful could bloom. Children ran past him, waving wooden signs painted with bright letters. They had named each street after virtues: Hope Lane, Mercy Avenue, Gray Street. But one house stood apart, half-built, untouched since the first storm. Claire found him standing before it one evening, tools in hand but unmoving. "You've built every home but this one," she said quietly. Ethan nodded, his gaze distant. "I was saving it." "For what?" she asked, stepping closer. He looked at the wooden frame, his expression softening. "For her." Claire frowned slightly. "Your mother?" "No," he said. "For the people like us, the ones still learning to forgive." Together, they began rebuilding that final house, brick by brick. There was no blueprint, no name, no design, just intention. They worked in silence, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. At one point, Claire carved a small word into the doorway. Home. Ethan smiled when he saw it. No family name, he teased. She shook her head. This place doesn't belong to a family. It belongs to healing. He placed his hand over the carving, feeling its truth. When the house was finished, they left it open, no locks, no owner. Travelers began to use it as a rest stop, a shelter for anyone lost or tired. Soon word spread. It became known as a house without a name. People said it felt different inside, like it carried the warmth of unseen hands. Claire would often sit on its porch at sunset, watching strangers arrive. And every time, Ethan stood nearby, quietly fixing something, a hinge, a beam, a step. He never left completely, as if the house itself held him there. One evening, Claire brought him a single photograph, the pendant resting on the doorway. Below it, children had drawn a new symbol, the crest surrounded by open hands. He smiled, tears welling up. "They changed it," he whispered. "They made it theirs," she said softly. Ethan nodded, his voice trembling. "Good. It was never really mine." As the wind rustled through the trees, the sound was like laughter, light, familiar, and for the first time, neither of them felt haunted by the past. Years passed quietly, like pages turning in a book nobody wanted to close. The settlement grew into a thriving community, shops, schools, and gardens everywhere. People still spoke of the house without a name, as if it were sacred ground. No one owned it, yet everyone cared for it. They painted its walls every spring. Visitors left small notes inside, prayers, apologies, promises. The walls became covered in handwriting from all walks of life. Ethan and Claire's story had turned into something larger than themselves. One morning, a journalist visited, searching for the truth behind the legend. He found Claire teaching children how to bake bread at her cafe. When he asked about the man who built the village, she simply smiled. "Some stories don't need to be rewritten," she said softly. He pressed further, curious. What happened to him? Claire looked toward the horizon, where the old house stood against the sun. "He found peace," she whispered, and that was enough. The journalist walked to the house, camera in hand, dust swirling in the air. Inside, sunlight streamed through cracked windows, illuminating faded notes. One caught his eye. Old, yellowed, the ink nearly gone. It read, "If I can't undo what I broke, I'll spend my life mending what remains." The signature was simple. E. Holt. He didn't recognize the name, but it felt familiar somehow. He took a photo and left it untouched, as if afraid to disturb history. That night, Claire walked alone to the same house, holding a candle. She placed it beside that note, her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes glistening. The flame flickered gently, casting golden reflections on the walls. For a moment, she imagined Ethan standing in the doorway, quiet, smiling. "Still fixing things?" she murmured with a soft laugh. The wind outside answered her with a sigh, tender and calm. Children later found that candle still burning at dawn. They said the light never truly went out, no matter how dark the nights became. To them, it wasn't just wax and fire. It was a promise kept. They began lighting candles every year on that same night. Each flame represented a story of someone forgiven, someone redeemed. The ritual became known as the inheritance of light. And from then on, the village glowed not with wealth, but with memory. It was a quiet afternoon when the mail arrived, bills, flyers, and one yellowed envelope. Claire almost threw it aside, but the handwriting stopped her cold. Her breath caught. She'd know that penmanship anywhere. The ink had faded, but the name was clear, E. Holt. Her hands trembled as she turned it over, the wax seal still unbroken. No address, no date, just her name written in the center. She sat down, the cafe silent around her, and opened it slowly. Inside was a single folded page, the edges frayed and soft with age. She unfolded it, and Ethan's voice seemed to speak through every line. "If you're reading this, I probably never found the right moment to say it. I've spent years trying to make things right, but I learned something: you can't repay grace. You can only pass it forward. Claire's eyes blurred with tears as she traced the words with her fingertips. Every sentence felt like a confession and a blessing at once. I used to think redemption was about being forgiven, but now I see it's about learning to live differently once you are. You taught me that without ever trying to. The next line made her heart ache. If I had a daughter, I'd hope she'd have your strength. Claire pressed the page to her chest, the paper damp with her tears. She could almost hear his voice again, calm, remorseful, real. In that moment, it didn't feel like loss. It felt like closure. At the bottom of the letter was one final message. There's a small box buried near the first oak by the house without a name. If it's still there, it's yours now. Claire wiped her eyes, her pulse quickening. Without thinking twice, she grabbed her coat and locked the cafe. The path to the oak was overgrown, wildflowers blooming where footprints once lay. She knelt, digging carefully until her fingers brushed something wooden. It was a small box, weathered but intact. Inside, she found a pendant, the family crest polished and clean. Beside it was a tiny brass key and a folded note that read, "For the next door." She laughed softly through her tears, shaking her head. Even in death, Ethan had found a way to surprise her. She closed the box gently, holding it against her heart. And for the first time, the weight of their story felt beautifully light. The brass key felt heavier than it should, small, unassuming, yet full of mystery. Claire turned it over in her palm as she walked toward the village outskirts. Something deep inside her told her Ethan had left more than a token behind. The wind brushed through the trees, carrying the faint sound of laughter. It led her to a narrow path she hadn't seen in years, hidden behind wild ivy. At the end stood an old wooden shed, the door sealed with rusted lock. The key fit perfectly. Inside, sunlight filtered through broken slats, revealing a strange sight. Dozens of rolled-up papers filled wooden shelves, maps, blueprints, handwritten notes. Each one bore Ethan's handwriting, marked with dates and sketches. She unrolled one carefully and gasped. They were plans, entire communities designed with open housing, schools, clinics. Names of nearby towns were scribbled in the margins. He hadn't just built one village. He had planned dozens. Claire's hands trembled as she flipped through the papers. Every design carried the same signature, built on grace. Her heart swelled with pride and grief all at once. He had never told her about this, not even when they rebuilt together. Tears welled up as she whispered, "You never stopped working, did you?" On the back of one blueprint, she noticed something else, coordinates and a date. It was for the following week. The next day, she gathered the community in the square. Holding Ethan's box and the plans, she told them everything. The people listened in silence, many of them crying softly. He didn't want recognition, she said. He wanted continuation. They agreed to honor his vision, not as a monument, but as a movement. Brick by brick, heart by heart, they would carry it forward. Claire placed a key around her neck, the pendant resting beside it. That evening, she walked to the house without a name once more. The sunset painted the walls gold, the windows glowing like embers. She placed Ethan's letter and a copy of the blueprints on the mantel. "This," she said quietly, "is your next door." Outside, children's laughter echoed as candles flickered to life across the village. The light reached all the way to the horizon, glowing like a promise kept. And as Claire looked up, she whispered, "We'll finish what you started." Months later, word about the village began to spread beyond the valley. Travelers came, not for shelter, but for inspiration. They took pictures of the house without a name, the carved word home, and the pendant symbol. Stories of Ethan Holt, the fallen realtor who rebuilt lives, began circulating online. At first, Claire hesitated to speak publicly. She hated the spotlight. But when journalists asked, she always said the same thing. He didn't want fame. He wanted forgiveness to be contagious. One day, a video of the village went viral across social media. It showed children lighting candles, people sharing food, and laughter echoing in the night. The caption read, "From greed to grace, one man's redemption built 1,000 homes." It was viewed millions of times within days. Letters began arriving from all over the world, from people seeking to do the same. Communities in distant countries started their own unnamed houses. Each one carried Ethan's crest, surrounded by open hands. Claire was overwhelmed by the response. Volunteers showed up, builders, teachers, even retired architects. They wanted to learn, to replicate what Ethan had done, but she reminded them, you can't copy a miracle. You can only live one. Still, she shared his blueprints freely, without taking credit. And slowly, a network began to form. People united by humility, not hierarchy. It was the closest thing to a movement without leaders. One night, Claire received an email from a city she'd never heard of. It was from a woman named Maria, who'd lost everything in a housing fire. She wrote, "We built a small shelter using your designs. It's saving lives already." Attached was a picture, a home painted gold, with candles glowing in the window. Beneath it, children had drawn Ethan's crest again, the symbol now global. Claire smiled through tears, whispering, "You did it, Ethan." Some echoes traveled farther than any voice. The next morning, the mayor visited Claire with unexpected news. The government wanted to recognize the village as a cultural heritage of renewal. They wanted to rename it Holt Haven. Claire thought for a long time, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. Finally, she shook her head. No, leave it unnamed. That's how he'd want it. The mayor frowned. But people need something to remember. They already have, she said softly. Each other. The rain came without warning, a wall of darkness rolling over the horizon. The wind howled like an old ghost returning for unfinished business. People hurried to their homes, gathering candles and blankets, fear creeping back in. Claire stood on the porch of the cafe, staring at the churning sky. It felt familiar, too familiar, like the storm from years ago that changed everything. But this time, she wasn't alone. This time, the village knew how to fight together. The lightning struck near the edge of the settlement, splitting a tree in two. Claire ran toward it, soaked, shouting for help. Volunteers poured from their houses, forming chains to move debris. Water surged down the dirt roads, flooding gardens and small homes. For a moment, panic threatened to return, the same panic of loss and helplessness. But then a young boy shouted, "Remember what Ethan built." And just like that, fear turned into purpose. They worked through the night, using sandbags, tarps, and ropes. The house without a name became a refuge again, doors wide open. Families huddled together, whispering prayers and stories. Claire organized everyone, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Keep the light burning," she said, "no matter what." Children lit candles in jars, placing them on windowsills. The village glowed like a constellation against the storm. By dawn, the rain had calmed, but the damage was heavy. Fields were ruined, walls cracked, and the cafe's roof had collapsed. Claire stood in the mud, exhausted but upright. Around her, neighbors embraced one another, laughing through tears. They hadn't lost anyone, not one life. That realization made her knees buckle as relief washed over her. They had survived again, not because of luck, but because of love. As the sun broke through the clouds, golden light spread across the destruction. It touched the broken beams, the puddles, and the trembling faces. Someone began to sing softly, an old hymn Ethan once hummed. Soon, others joined in, voices rising over the wind. It wasn't just a song. It was defiance, gratitude, and memory all at once. Claire looked up, whispering to the heavens, "We kept the light, Ethan." And somehow, in that sunlight, she swore she felt him smiling. The morning after the storm, the air smelled of rain and renewal. Claire walked through the muddy streets, her boots sinking deep into the earth. Everywhere she looked, people were already rebuilding roofs, fences, gardens. No one waited for orders. They simply acted. It was as if the storm had stripped away everything unimportant, leaving only unity. Children collected scattered candles and relit them one by one. By noon, the whole village shimmered again, fragile but glowing. When Claire reached the house without a name, the damage stunned her. The roof had caved in, and the front door hung from one hinge. Inside, water pooled around the notes and drawings on the wall. Many were ruined, the ink bleeding like tears. She knelt in the center of the room, overwhelmed by grief. But then she noticed one paper untouched, Ethan's note. It read, "Build again. That's what light does." Her lips trembled as she whispered, "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" She laughed softly, tears mixing with the rain on her face. Outside, volunteers began clearing debris around the house. Claire joined them, hammering nails and lifting beams. By evening, the walls stood upright again, sturdier than before. Someone had painted the phrase from Ethan's note above the doorway. It read in bold letters, "That's what light does." The villagers decided to use gold paint to repair the cracks on the walls. When sunlight hit them, the lines shimmered like veins of light through marble. Someone compared it to the Japanese art of kintsugi, mending with beauty. Claire loved the symbolism. "We don't hide what broke," she said. "We make it part of our story." People nodded, smiling through their exhaustion. What once was a ruin now looked like a sanctuary made of sunlight. That night, the candles were lit again. Children played among the repaired walls, laughter echoing into the night. Musicians came with guitars and flutes, turning grief into melody. Claire sat on the porch, watching the golden cracks glow under the moon. She felt Ethan everywhere, in the laughter, in the warmth, in the courage. "Your light didn't die," she whispered to the wind. It just found new hands to hold it. A few days after the storm, Claire returned to the cafe to salvage what she could. Among the wreckage, broken chairs, soaked ledgers, shattered glass. Something glinted. It was an old USB drive, half buried beneath a fallen shelf. She wiped the mud away and squinted at the faint engraving. EH. Her breath caught. Ethan's initials. Her pulse quickened as she plugged it into an old laptop that still worked. A single file appeared, for Claire, MP3. For a moment, she hesitated, afraid of what she might hear. Then she clicked play. Static filled the air, followed by a familiar, trembling voice. "Claire, if you're hearing this, I didn't plan it. I just wanted to leave something behind." Her heart raced. It was him, alive through sound, intimate as breath. "I don't know how much time I'll have when I record this," he continued. "But I realized something. Legacy isn't what you leave. It's what you teach." His tone softened, weary yet steady. "I spent my life building walls, literal ones, emotional ones, all kinds. But you taught me to build doors instead." Claire pressed her hands to her mouth, tears streaming silently. He paused and added, "You'll know when it's time to open the next one." The faint hum of rain could be heard in the background of the recording. He had probably recorded it on a stormy night, like the one that started it all. Then his voice lowered, almost a whisper. "I wanted to tell you something I never said out loud." Claire leaned closer, barely breathing. "I forgave myself because you showed me how." A sob escaped her, raw and unguarded. She whispered to the screen, "You didn't have to ask." The silence that followed was heavier than any storm. And then came one last line, softer, almost lost in static. "If a house ever falls again, don't rebuild it the same way. Build it brighter." The file ended with a click, leaving only the hum of the laptop fan. Claire sat still, staring at the dark screen, heart full and breaking all at once. Outside, sunlight pierced through the gray clouds, spilling into the ruined cafe. And in that light, she made a silent promise to keep building brighter. The next morning, the entire village gathered near the house without a name. Claire stood before them, holding Ethan's pendant in one hand and the USB in the other. She didn't give a speech. She simply played the recording aloud. Ethan's voice carried through the crowd, trembling yet strong. When the line came, "Build it brighter," silence fell over everyone. Then, slowly, people began to nod, tears shining in their eyes. They understood. It wasn't about repair. It was about rebirth. Within days, the rebuilding began, but this time it was different. Walls were painted with colors instead of plain white. Murals bloomed across every surface. Stories of storms, forgiveness, and laughter. Children dipped their hands in paint, leaving prints that climbed toward the rooftops. Each print bore a name beneath it, not of ownership, but of gratitude. Claire oversaw it all, her heart swelling with every brushstroke. "This isn't just a house anymore," she whispered. "It's a message." They expanded the design into a learning center. Free classes for children and adults. Local carpenters taught building skills. Artists taught color and composition. A library grew from donations, filled with journals, sketches, and stories of redemption. Above the entrance, carved into the new archway, was Ethan's final phrase, "Build it brighter." Visitors came from distant towns to see what light looked like after darkness, and every person left carrying a piece of it home. One evening, a young woman from the city approached Claire in tears. "My father was like Ethan," she said, "hard, proud, unforgiving." She smiled through her sobs. "I showed him this place. He cried for first time in years." Claire hugged her tightly, feeling the weight and beauty of it all. This was Ethan's legacy, not the bricks of the buildings, but the heart softened. Even the hardest souls could be reshaped when shown compassion. Forgiveness, it seemed, was the most unbreakable foundation of all. As dusk settled, the village glowed in every color imaginable. Golds, blues, reds, like hope painted into the bones of the earth. The children ran through the streets with lanterns, laughter echoing like bells. Claire watched from the doorway, a warm wind brushing her hair. She whispered, "You see, Ethan? We did it. We built it brighter." The pendant on her neck caught the last light of the sun, gleaming softly. For the first time, the light didn't feel borrowed. It felt like it was hers. The sun was sinking behind the hills when the stranger arrived. A dark coat, a travel bag, and eyes that carried both exhaustion and curiosity. Claire noticed him from the cafe's porch as the villagers began lighting candles. He stood there quietly, watching the glow spread through the streets. When she approached, he removed his hat, revealing graying hair and a gentle smile. "I hope I'm not too late," he said softly, voice trembling with something unspoken. "I came to find Ethan Holt." Claire's heart clenched at the name. She studied the man, his features, the way he spoke. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "Ethan passed years ago." The man nodded, eyes glistening. "I know. I'm his brother." The word struck her like a wave, and she had to steady herself. He looked down, voice heavy. "We lost touch decades ago. Pride got in the way." He held up a letter, edges worn and yellow. "He wrote me this before he died." They sat inside the cafe, the candles flickering between them. The brother's name was Samuel, a retired teacher who had spent years searching. He said he'd found peace here, Samuel murmured, unfolding the letter. Claire listened as he read Ethan's words aloud, about guilt, grace, and the village. At the end, the letter mentioned her name. He said, "If you ever find Claire, tell her she showed me the kind of love our family forgot how to give." Tears welled to her eyes as she whispered, "He never stopped healing, did he?" Samuel smiled faintly. "Seems he healed both of us, just at different times." He reached into his coat and placed something on the table, a small wooden box. "He wanted you to have this too," he said. Inside was an old pocket watch, engraved with the initials EH and SH. It ticked faintly, still alive despite its age. Claire turned it over and saw something scratched into the back. Time forgives when hearts do. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The cafe was filled with the quiet rhythm of the ticking watch. Samuel finally said, "He'd be proud of what you've done here." Claire smiled through her tears. He should be proud of himself, too. They sat together until the candles burned low, the air thick with memory. Outside, the village shimmered beneath the dusk like a living monument. And for the first time, Claire realized Ethan had never truly left. He had simply multiplied. The next morning, Samuel met Claire at the house without a name. The air was crisp, golden light spilling through the cracks in the repaired walls. He held the pocket watch delicately, as if it might vanish if handled too roughly. "This," he said softly, "was our father's." Claire turned to him, surprise flickering in her eyes. Samuel nodded. He was a watchmaker, a stubborn one. Always said, "You can't fix time, only what you do with it. Ethan had kept that same watch all his life. Samuel sat on the porch steps, eyes lost in memory. When our mother died, our father fell apart. Ethan took over the business too young. He sighed, his voice heavy with regret. He became obsessed with control, money, success, perfection. I left when we fought about it. I told him I'd never come back until he changed. He looked up at the sky, blinking back tears. But I never gave him the chance to show me he did. Claire listened in silence, the weight of his confession settling deep. Some pains, she realized, pass from one generation to the next until someone chooses to heal them. Samuel handed her the watch again, his hands trembling. When I wound it last night, it wouldn't start. But when I brought it here, he turned the dial, and the faint ticking began again, steady and alive. He smiled sadly. Maybe it only runs where forgiveness lives. Claire's eyes glistened. Then it belongs here, she said softly. He nodded. I think that's what Ethan would have wanted. Together, they placed it above the door, beside the carved words, "Build it brighter." For days, people came to see the watch. They said its ticking could be heard across the room when everything else was silent. Children began calling at the heart of the house. Claire would smile and tell them, "It reminds us that time doesn't heal, love does." The story of the watch spread just like Ethan's story once had. Visitors began bringing their own keepsakes. Broken clocks, cracked frames, torn letters. They placed them under the watch, turning pain into offering. One night, after everyone had gone, Samuel and Claire sat by candlelight. The watch still ticked softly between them, steady as breath. He said, "You know, Claire, I thought I came here to bury guilt." She looked at him, smiling faintly. And instead, he chuckled quietly. "I found my brother again, just in a different way." Claire leaned back, eyes misty. "Then maybe this place is a memorial." He nodded. "No, it's a resurrection." The anniversary of Ethan's passing arrived quietly. Like a sunrise no one wanted to end. Claire stood before the house without a name, surrounded by villagers old and new. Every window glowed with a single candle, their light trembling against the dusk. Samuel stood beside her, holding the pocket watch, its ticking steady and strong. The children carried lanterns shaped like tiny houses, each painted with gold cracks. As night fell, the air shimmered with the soft hum of voices singing together. It wasn't a ceremony. It was gratitude turned into song. Claire stepped forward, lifting her candle high. She spoke softly, her voice carried by the wind. This house was built by hands that once destroyed and hearts that chose to rebuild. She looked around at the faces illuminated by the golden glow. No one here is perfect, but we've learned something better, how to begin again. A hush filled the crowd, the flames dancing like living spirits. Then Samuel wound the pocket watch one final time. Its ticking echoed louder than before, rhythmic and clear in the silence. He hung above the doorway, where it caught the reflection of hundreds of candles. Then, one by one, the villagers raised their lights toward the sky. From the hills, the village looked like a sea of stars shimmering on earth. The watch's reflection glowed brighter, as if catching the breath of every flame. Time, it seemed, wasn't passing anymore. It was pausing reverent. In that stillness, even the night seemed to listen. Claire closed her eyes and whispered, "We built it brighter, Ethan." Samuel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, tears glistening in his eyes. "He'd be proud," he said, "not of the buildings, but of the light." She nodded slowly, the warmth of the crowd surrounding them. Somewhere in the distance, a breeze rustled through the trees, soft and familiar. It carried the faint scent of rain, and something else, something like peace, the kind that stays. As dawn crept over the horizon, the candles began to fade, but the village still glowed, not from fire, but from memory. The house stood golden, its cracks gleaming in the sunlight, the watch ticking on. Children played outside, their laughter echoing through time. Claire looked once more at the words carved in the wood above the door. "Build it brighter." She smiled, whispered, "Always," and walked into the light.